We're here today with Jim Wallis, who's a veteran Christian political activist from the United States and founder of the Sojourners Community and Magazine as part of the Do Something series. And it's really wonderful to have you here, Jim, in keeping with our Do Something ethos, which is trying to promote social action on important issues of our time. I want to start by talking about the theme of today's talk, which we called Don't Go Left, Don't Go Right, Go Deeper. It sounds very good, but then I think about, I think sometimes, why don't we just go left? You know, in New Zealand we have a proud history of progressive political development, such as being one of the first countries to institute a welfare state, which our Prime Minister at the time, Michael Joseph Savage, described as applied Christianity. So I want to ask you, what's wrong with just going left?
Well, I am grateful for the kind of Christian origins of, both in the UK and Australia and here, of some of the progressive social achievements. But it was movements, social movements, that led to that. And I think we're always stronger when we're building those movements. So the left can become institutionalized and concerned with power and politics and winning and losing, and can often lose its principles. So we're best when we're sticking with the principles. Politics without principle was one of Gandhi's 7 deadly social sins. And I've seen the right and the left fall victim to that. So I want to engage politics, and I do all the time, and I'm happy when people on the left are standing on principle, or people in the center right or center left or whatever. But I think I want to talk about the social movements that are behind those changes, at Wilberforce and Martin Luther King Jr. and Desmond Tutu and all the people that have inspired me over all these years.
Right, thank you. So relatedly, I noted you said in 2008 that the Bible is neither conservative nor liberal, as we understand those terms, and that it can be traditional or conservative on family values, for example, or sexual integrity, but can be progressive on radical issues like poverty. What are some of the values of the Bible when it comes to family values and sexual integrity, which might be unpalatable to today's more liberal Christians, or which might be difficult for us to proclaim today?
Well, as a dad of a 12-year-old and a 7-year-old, being a parent is changing my life, you know, and I build my travel schedule around Little League Baseball. I'm the coach of both my son's baseball teams. And, you know, kids shouldn't get our leftover time. We should build our schedules around time with them. And so I get pretty conservative about parenting and being a dad, and family time versus screen time, and versus TV time, and all of that. And you know, I have a lot of kids on my team who are single parents, and sorry to interrupt, Jim, but do you worry sometimes, because I'm also have recently become a parent. Right. I have a 1.5-year-old daughter, and I'm pregnant again as well. And I really have a strong urge. My husband and I, we really give Elka a lot of time, and we want to give her a lot of time and love and wonderful experiences and bring her up as best we can. But then I think about all those other children who are missing out and how much luckier Elka is than they are. And I worry if the balance is too much in her favour, and if I shouldn't try so hard to look after her and should be striving instead on behalf of some of the children whose needs are greater. But I think we don't have to make those kind of choices. You know, Luke, when he was he's 12 now, when he was 8, one night he just, out of the blue during his prayer time, he says, "Dear Lord, I pray that all those children don't die again tomorrow." Because he'd heard about 30,000 children dying every day globally because of totally unnecessary poverty and preventable disease. And it was just, he's working this out in his prayer life. He says, "I hope they don't die again tomorrow." But that's unlikely. So Lord, I hope it would be their best day ever. But that's stupid. It won't be their best day ever. Lord, help us to keep this from happening, you know. And both my boys are caught up in, they want to be part of that movement to keep from happening. And so to me, it's deepened my commitment to those other kids. And they're now part of that commitment, you know. And when we pray at night, we pray, help our lives to make their lives different and better, you know. And so...
so you're doing both at the same time?
I think it's made me more sensitive to, I mean, when Bono tells the story of how in Ethiopia once in a refugee camp, a dad gave him his infant son to hold. And as a rock star, he's used to these photo ops, you know, I think it's just a picture. And then the dad, with tears in his eyes, says, please take him with you, because if he stays here with me, he's going to die. And if you could just take him, you might have a chance to live. And Bono couldn't legally do that, but he said, I carry that boy with me now wherever I go. And it changed him. It got personal for him. So I think it's got to get personal for us. So those are, I guess, conservative values. But then it leads to, I'm not liberal on economics, I'm radical about, you know, this distance between the rich and the poor, the top and the bottom, is just, it's a scandal, it's a sin, it's tearing us apart. And so 30,000 kids dying every day, or 3 billion people living on $2 a day, these are the biggest political facts in the world. They affect everything else. And those are the facts we have to change.
Well, that ties into another question I wanted to ask later, but I'll jump to now. You were asked a question about the book The Spirit Level, which Matthew and I have also been reading. And the main thrust of the book is that inequality is bad for everyone, not just the people at the bottom.
Right.
And it sort of sets out, it does quite clearly set out a manifesto for how we can go about changing or bringing more equality. And I wonder if you could cover briefly again for us, what does the Bible have to say about inequality, and what are our obligations as Christians with respect to this?
Well, God doesn't mind prosperity as long as it's shared. But when it isn't shared, God gets angry. And so the prophets, in the midst of this great inequality, they just rose up to proclaim the judgment and justice of God. This breaks our bonds. It destroys our solidarity. It makes people think they don't belong. They have no ownership in society. So it really rips our social contract apart. And so I think, you know, what it means to, I love the black spiritual about the welcome table. You know, it's a wonderful image. You've got to create space and more chairs and more room to make space for more people. And so I think this may be the big issue of our time, because trafficking comes out of this, and restorative justice comes out of this, and poverty and pandemic diseases, and climate change is going to make, you know, 200 million climate refugees by 2050. So it all comes down to this, why so many people died in Haiti of an earthquake and no one did in Christchurch. You know, well, these are the differences between the top and the bottom. So I think this is going to be the big issue for a new generation of believers, I think.